Hello, everyone. My name is Miss Ari from twitch.tv/Miss Ari, and this is my Grafton Farmhouse build from the game Phasmophobia. Bear with me, this is kind of my first time doing commentary for a speed build video. Usually I slap on some music and I just kind of let it go that way, but this time I wanted to add a little more information since this is something that's already part of a game, and maybe, I don't know, some other people wanted ideas or thoughts or just wanted to see my thought process. So the first step for this build that I tried was I wanted to try and make it on a grid because The Sims 4 is very grid based and it's 1x1 squares. You can't really build on half squares. Like, you can place items on half squares, but building on half squares just isn't quite something that the game allows, unfortunately. So I had to try and make it into a grid, which means I had taken a picture of the blueprint from Phasmophobia of the house that you can get when you're first in the van. If you haven't played before, you get this big van with all your stuff and you get a map of the house. So I tried to do that and I put it in a grid maker. It is a little iffy. You can see here that I messed up on how large the grid was and like how long the house needed to be and how big the house needed to be. And I try and make my rooms and stuff as accurate as possible in terms of size. It's a little off only because, again, Sims makes it a little more difficult in terms of windows, doors, and things like that, and walls. So I did try and do my best, along with using pictures from in the game to make things as accurate as possible, like the staircase that actually looks a little blue in the game, strangely enough. But blue staircases in a wooden house doesn't quite make sense. But sure enough, here I am doing a blue staircase. I had to actually go into the game and take a bunch of pictures, which was terrifying. If anyone has not played Phasmophobia, it is a horror game where you have to go into a house where there is a ghost entity and you have to figure out what kind of ghost it is. The ghost can speak to you, you can speak to it. It will move stuff around the house, it will shut doors, it will try and hunt you and thus kill you. It's a pretty spooky game, but the houses are really well done in terms of design and detail, and so I always wanted to try and recreate the houses, especially once The Sims released the ghost kind of expansion where you could have haunted residences, and I thought it was really interesting. Here I'm trying to place walls. I'm trying not place walls. I'm trying to place wallpapers, and I learned very quickly that The Sims 4 didn't actually make a really good old-time kind of log cabin look, which I think is such a shame because it's essentially a log cabin out in the middle of nowhere is this Grafton Farmhouse. And, And so I was trying to find anything that could resemble a log house kind of ordeal, and that was the wallpaper the closest I got. It still looks a little too sleek to me. But The Sims just did not give me anything that looked like a log cabin, which was a shame. I would encourage EA or Maxis or whoever is developing this game at this point to maybe put in some log cabin wallpaper, please. It would be greatly helpful. I also noticed that The Sims does not have a ton of, I'm trying to think of the word, maybe like kind of not dirty, but like worn kind of pieces. Like, everything looks very nice and shiny and new, and I kind of get that. Like, in a dream house, that's what you want. But when trying to make a haunted house that has been abandoned suddenly, you kind of want that really deteriorated look. And these windows were the closest I could find in terms of deteriorated or old or even just dated. And I appreciate that The Sims is trying to give us our dream, but I wanted to try and be as realistic as possible with this house. So I was trying to go for something a little more dilapidated, a little more, old time and worn, which was a bit difficult, but the windows that I did find ended up working out. The top floor now was probably one of the harder things to work with just because I did not get a ton of pictures of the top floor. When I had joined some friends in playing this game, to get my pictures, I had to do these pictures alone while my other friends did like the actual game, and it was pretty tough and I was full of nerves trying to get everything the way I wanted it to. And the hardest part actually was like this floor issue where I had to sit there and try and get the like a cutout of the balcony inside for the staircases, because from that staircase you can look straight down. And Sims really does not like when you do that. So I figured out a way through some sort of method online that people use, but Sims does not like you doing that. They're like, we are not going to give you these balconies inside. But with that, the second floor is more or less done. The spacing of it is okay, and the rooms seem to be pretty accurate. Next, I'm trying to get kind of the outside of it here, just like the slats for the like the deck and stuff like that. It's not super lifted of a house. It is very little. It has a very little bit of a deck, but it is a deck regardless. This was probably the easiest part, more or less, because it's very easy to find lots of pictures online of the front of this house. I It's really hard, though, in general, to get pictures of this house because the only light you really have, unless you turn on lights, is your flashlight. And the problem being is your flashlight does not give you very much. And even if you turn on lights, sometimes that will piss off the ghosts a little bit more. So, not always a great idea. But at least the front was easy enough, and that's kind of one of the more important features, especially when looking at the farmhouse. I did struggle a lot with the roofs here. I'll go into it a little bit more as we get to the part where I am trying to work with the roofs. But I am notoriously bad at making roofs in The Sims. I don't think I've ever been good at it. But I understand, like, after editing this video and watching it a little bit myself, there were some ways I really could have changed it. It was just really tough. And I'm trying to get better at it. It's just, I have a hard time. I really need to get into the habit of making unnecessary walls for the sake of how my roof looks. But I just don't like doing that very much. I think I'm very much a form or function over form kind of thing. So if, like, I don't need that extra wall, why am I putting an extra wall? But as you can see, my roof kind of needed the extra walls to look cohesive in some way or another. I don't know, make a non-existent attic kind of thing. But yeah, so you can see me struggling here. I was wanting this corrugated roof look, but again, The Sims 4 doesn't like really accommodate it. Like, it's there, but it doesn't have like a good trim that really shows off that up and down that you get from those roofs. And so I kind of did with what I did. I did a black trim around it and decided that was going to have to be good for now. And now I am starting on the inside, which probably took me the longest, considering that in these houses, or like in the particularly farmhouses of Phasmophobia, there is a ton of little junk everywhere. And as someone who wanted to try and make it as accurate as possible, it was kind of annoying. Especially because I was trying to find bookcases and shelves and stuff that Sims just doesn't have and just doesn't have a comparison to. Like, I'll put the picture up, and there is this blue sort of bookshelf that they have that, like, whoever owns this house has there. And there's no real good comparison of the area in this game. And I was trying to find, like, gas canisters and this and that. And I was trying to not use the debug menu for some reason, just because it really fills up a lot of my space. And I was trying not to I was trying to decorate and not have it, like, take all day, which it ended up doing. But it did take quite a while. I ended up at some point not cheating, I guess, but using the debug menu for a lot of the items, especially to make, like, trash, like cans and bottles and cups, because unfortunately, like, The Sims has a clutter category, and it's not the clutter that most people have in their houses and rooms, especially me looking at my desk at this moment. But one thing that was good was this. I don't know if anyone has it. Well, I mean, lots of people have it. Am I kidding? This Dream Home expansion actually really helped in terms of getting boxes. I never realized how much I really wanted boxes in a game. But man, that one makes it convenient. The boxes look a little too clean once again. I really need a Sims expansion that is down and dirty and has terrible kept and conditioned stuff. But it worked out for the most part, and those boxes actually really come in handy throughout this whole build, because the boxes look Like, you can move them around, you can use cheats to move them up and down, make them bigger, make them smaller, and they're just super useful. And they come in just our typical brown color, which I think before this expansion, the only like cardboard box that we had was the one that had like the fruit on the side. So it just didn't look quite right. And here, there in the Grafton Farmhouse in Phasmophobia, there is these piles of logs, and I'm trying to find a way to get those logs, but The Sims doesn't have piles of logs just as a furnishing item. As you saw, I tried to place down like the outdoor one that you would put on a side of a house, and it just doesn't look quite right. So I went with these weird cargo boxes to kind of get the image across of it's a very crowded area. The entire house is also filled with these fly traps that I was trying to recreate with this plant. But it's kind of not, it doesn't quite have the same effect. Again, Sims, please put in like ways to have me make a trashy house. I don't know. People get fly traps. Just let me have that. Um, the one item I used a lot in this build that I never expected to use, actually there were two. There was the radiator, which I guess I didn't realize how many radiators were in Grafton Farmhouse. And the other one was coat hangers, or was like a coat stand to hang your coats on outside of a door. This build has like 1,000 of them because Grafton Farmhouse itself, after all the pictures I looked through, has 1,000 of them all around the house. And it was horrible. It was horrible dealing with it. Again, I also noticed another issue was I was trying to, with this table here in particular, I was trying to find like a table that had like a tablecloth on it, because in Grafton Farmhouse there is a table with a tablecloth there for the dining table. How many times can I say table? And I was trying to find one, but there wasn't any that was dilapidated enough for me to have this tablecloth that I wanted. So I was trying to get a rug to work, and that was the day I learned that you can't actually get a rug to work. A rug only sits on the ground and is like painted. It does not actually sit anywhere else. So I thought that was rather interesting. So yeah, the rug just would not work for me, which, I mean, it's okay. I found some other ways. I ended up, again, like I said, I went to debug mode finally. You can see a lot of my mod packs there. And I just put a lot of clutter on the table, which there already is. I said screw it to the tablecloth. There was nothing I had that was going to fit up there. If a rug wasn't going to work, then nothing was. But I'm going to tell you, I did try. A lot of this build was a lot of clutter making, which, it gave me a lot of practice, which was nice. But it was a lot of it. And trying to find a lot of older, broken, maybe even gross items in The Sims to put in this house, because if you've ever played the game, it's a really gross house. This build also taught me that I despise curtains. I despise the way curtains act in The Sims. They will not cooperate with me. You can see here as I try and find the right one. Also, I want a different variety of curtains. I need gross, torn curtains. EA, if you're listening, I need some gross curtains, please. They are all a little too clean and nice, and just, they don't fit right in this area. And right now you can tell that they're too long because they don't fit these windows very well. But I tried to do my best. I'll end up going in later and, oops, missed a wall there apparently. I ended up going in later and fixing them to make them a little smaller and stuff like that. Added some little details like the wall tearing, which, I mean, I guess doesn't make sense for a log cabin, but also the walls don't look like that. Added some tearing, tried to add some little wall destruction kind of thing, just to give it a little bit more of a feel that like an evil entity was in there, was destroying the house, ruining everything. The next issue was trying to find a piano. So there's a very small standalone piano in that corner. And I have remembered this piano from The Sims 3, and I thought it had stayed into The Sims 4, and apparently it did not. I must have imagined it somehow, because it did not stay, and so I had to use a keyboard in its place Doesn't look quite right, but you know, it works for what it is. Next, we're working on the upstairs of this house, and this room was super easy because I'd passed it a bunch of times, so even I knew kind of what was already in it. It's like the bedrooms and stuff that I was like, oh, I guess I never really looked through here and seen what everything was. But here, it's a chair, it's a table, it's radiators, there's a coat hanger. Shocking. It's actually a lamp in the corner, I believe. There's something in the corner of this house. The picture will be up there of what picture I used to get an idea here. But again, a lot of clutter, a lot of random stuff. I also realized that this house doesn't, or that The Sims doesn't have even decorative telephones, because every Sim has their own smartphone, which makes sense because everyone has a smartphone. But Sims, I need some old decorative elements, please. If I'm going to keep making these, I need older decorative elements. So I had to use some books in the meantime. It works out, I think, gets the idea across. It's an old house, old things, all sorts of stuff. This is me trying to look for something for the corner. I think I ended up going with a coat rack, but man, I guess I ended up going with a skeleton. What the flip? Why do I do that? All right, so we ended up getting so there's some clutter underneath there. Again, you can see lots and lots and lots of clutter. There's just, this house is gross and filled with clutter, and this is when I realized I had put 0 doors throughout the whole house yet. But thankfully, I wasn't actually done, so I went in and put some stuff there. And again, we are looking for another little shelf. The game shows a bookshelf with like a weird desk section for it. It's a very strange thing. I attempted to recreate it by using a table like I had done with the piano further downstairs, and there was just nothing that was quite working for it. So I think I ended up sitting with this bookshelf and deciding that was just what I'm gonna have to do, because I don't have anything else for it, because this house is just full of weird furniture. Another thing I wish I could have done was put an axe through one of the mirrors in the bathroom, which is actually in the game, adding to the spookiness of it. Sorry for the sniffling, by the way. It is very hot here. I am struggling. Maybe I have allergies, maybe I don't, but I'm currently struggling with the heat and my nasal passages. Another weird thing about this house is that there is a table in the bathroom. How many of you, does anyone else have tables in their bathrooms? I don't understand. Also on top of this table is a stuffed animal, and there's a stool, like someone was doing their homework while also going to the bathroom. Strange place. Guess I can't question the methods of ghosts, though. And here I have to find the stuffed animal. It is a pretty standard stuffed animal. I think it's just a teddy bear that's in there. So it wasn't super hard to find thanks to Blarfy, the main MVP. But one of the interesting things is The Sims does not have a lot of like old-timey stuff that's for like old houses or things like that, or dilapidated houses. But they have voodoo dolls because of the mischief skill. And that's just fascinating to me, because there's also voodoo dolls in Phasmophobia. So at least that was easy. But it was just a fascinating thing that I couldn't have broken mirrors, but I could have a voodoo doll. And I mean, I guess that's just like the entirety of The Sims, right? Is just how weird it is and how weird everything else goes together, and none of it makes sense. And we're all playing this game and I've spent given thousands to EA for The Sims 4 all my life. You know what? Never mind. Next is this guest bedroom, which was, I shockingly knew nothing about this guest bedroom. Apparently I took pictures even, and I did not understand this room. I ended up having to go online for additional pictures, because thankfully people take lots of pictures in this game and write lots of wikis about it. So I ended up going online and looking for a lot of extra pictures as well as the ones I took, because I was not going back into that game alone. And I did this build about 2 days after I had gone in to take all the pictures. So it was annoying, and it took me probably extra time to do that, which is probably why this recreation took forever. Also, I mean, having to go through every single chair trying to find the right chair is a pretty tough situation. And I mean, I guess not tough situation. That's a little bit of an exaggeration, but it was tough to try to find the right chair, especially because I'm such a stickler just for like the details and for having everything be as close as possible. You can tell towards the end, I absolutely gravitated away from that because I just got lazy and tired, and it was almost like 9 to 10 when I actually finished this, so I was exhausted. But this room is like one of the creepier rooms in Phasmophobia because it is a bedroom, but it's also a nursery. So there's this single bed in there, this chair, this desk, and then there's baby stuff on the left side, and it's kind of terrifying, especially when there is like a block set and you talk to the ghost and tell it to give you a sign and it moves one of the blocks. It's really terrifying. If you've never played Phasmophobia and you're a fan of horror, I would highly suggest it. It's a great game. It's also on Steam. This is not a Phasmophobia sponsored video though. I just really enjoy the game. But yeah, and also I realized in The Sims there is not very many very standard cribs for a baby. You have the one that your baby goes home with, then you have the very fancy vampire one, and you have this medical one that they have in the hospital. And then there's not much more. You don't have like a standard crib, which is what's usually in that room. It's not like this weird medical crib I found. But I was trying to get, I don't know why I chose the regular, like the medical one over the standard one. I just felt more right to me for some reason. I thought it looked a little bit better, a little creepier maybe, since it is like a medical crib, you know, never know what's happening in those. So I did try and find, it seemed to work out best. Here I'm looking for like an electrical panel that's on the outside of the house, which, again, super tough. The Sims 4 Star Wars expansion really added some more of that stuff, but it didn't quite add very realistic, present day looking electrical panels. It added a lot of really futuristic ones, which doesn't fit in a place like this. This little locker thing that I found was about the best I had, but it's also very large, as you can tell. So it was kind of tough. Next room was the kitchen I wanted to work on. The kitchen was fairly simple in terms of adding clutter to it and stuff. It wasn't so bad. I did have to like look at the picture a little bit for a long time and try and see everything that was in there and like everything I had taken a picture of. Again, the pictures are very, very dark. So they're very hard to see, very hard to like really understand what's going on. But overall in design, it's not super bad. There's the stool. It's a weird designed place though overall. There's a stool in the kitchen. There's a pot still on the stove. And you got just random shit on the walls and on the counters and everywhere else. And it's a cluttered room for sure. Every room in here is a cluttered room. There is a storage room that's upstairs with one of the bedrooms, and it might be the worst one, but we'll see that later. Fun fact is I put this in a world that I typically actually play on, and my sim got invited to another sim's house, and I was like, oh, I don't recognize the address, but I don't know many of the addresses in this game. And so I went to it and I showed up and it was this house because I'd put someone in there to get pictures inside. I put a family in there to get pictures inside, and I was like, oh no, there's not a fridge here. These Sims are dying. Here you can see me trying to work with the wonderful, infamous OMSP shelf. I don't know what I'm saying anymore. The OMSP shelf. I'm very bad at working with it, so I ended up trashing it for the most part. I can't exactly remember how you use it. I'm very, 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 like, I'm not practiced with it. It's not typically what I use to make clutter. I know it's one of the best tools to make clutter, but I'm just not very good at it. It is something I need a lot more practice with, so maybe these builds will get a little more sophisticated once I get that practice, but, yeah, in the meantime, I just don't have anything. I think the pots on the table are actually from a mod I have that's actually, I think it's Basemental Drugs, which is so funny, but it's like this weird candy that's part of the expansion, not the expansion, but the mod, and it was a weird choice, but it was the only one that looked good enough for jars. This kitchen also has a weird table set up. So like they have a breakfast nook technically, but it's like these chairs are next to each other as they are. And then there's one chair to the side, like someone was sitting up and like moved it to stand up. And it's really annoying that the chairs want to snap to the table. So when they snap to the table it moves with the table. And it's a whole ordeal of me trying to deal with this table and these chairs and getting annoyed by them. I did manage to figure it out, but as you can see, like I was trying to mess with it a little bit more and it just wasn't going. So, that's how it goes. There's again another rug in this room. This house really needs to chill on their rugs. There's a lot of them and they don't always belong there. Next is the supply utility closet, it's called in the game. It's got a bunch of shelves. It's basically like a little workroom. The creepiest thing about it is there's a mannequin in this room. And I probably made it creepier because The Sims doesn't have just like dress form mannequins where like the ones that don't have heads or arms or legs or anything. It's just like on a stick. The Sims doesn't have that. So I had to use like the mannequins you get for like it's not back to business, it's get to work. I think good Sims 2 call back there. But yeah, it's for get to work where it's a full body with like a head and an expression almost. And it's terrifying. So I think I've made it even creepier by adding this full-bodied mannequin into the room instead of this like dress form on a stick, which would have been creepy, but not as creepy as a full body. And yeah, there it is. It just looks like a person standing there, and it's in this room all alone. I don't like it at all. If I saw that in Phasmophobia, I'd probably scream. It'd probably be more terrifying than anything else that's in this game. I was struggling for a little bit trying to find, in this room in particular, there are there's shelves, and I mean the shelves aren't super hard because they're just basic utility shelves, but the ones that are in Sims are very large. So I ended up finding a trick you'll see kind of after this drafting table business that's here. Oh look, more clutter, more boxes. You won't see that 1,000 more times in this build. Oh, and also I realized, side note here, I forgot that there's a wall of like hanging tools in Phasmophobia and by this table. And I never realized The Sims 4 didn't have anything like it. This build really showed me a lot of like what typically would be in a house building game, but isn't. Because like having a wall of tools is so normal for like most houses. So it was really strange. But here is me trying to deal with the shelves. The shelves were a smidge too big for what I wanted. I know the shelves in Phasmophobia kind of go like back and forth. They jut out from the wall together, and it doesn't quite go like this. I end up having to fix it later. But they kind of sit like that. And so they were just a smidge too big. So I had to actually make them smaller and then put another one on top of it to make up for the height. And it was probably one of the best things I've done. It looked really natural, and it was way easier than I thought it was going to be. Next is we're going to work on the living room here, which is one of the more cluttered areas. And one of the one I probably struggled with the most, just in terms of spacing and trying to get all the boxes there. There's also this table that I struggled with in the build, that like there's like a table by the couch, but it has to hold this and it's at a certain level, and I ended up putting like a big coffee table there, and I'm thinking that I felt like I should have gone back and just put a regular end table there and just dealt with the height difference. Sometimes it's one of those things where sometimes the building itself, like I just get a little caught up in the details, and sometimes I just need to make some creative liberties for it to look all decent. I had to adjust the size of the living room compared to the bedroom that it's next to, that wall in particular that they share, because the living room is actually a lot bigger than the bedroom is, and the bedroom I think just had too much space in it for what it really is. It's not a very big bed. It's a master bedroom, but it's not very big. I had to get this ugly cream. I guess it's kind of cute, but again, The Sims 4 did not give me ugly furniture. They gave me decent furniture that works with kind of everything, but I wanted ugly furniture. So I used this couch to try and create like an old dated couch look. And there it yeah, this is the time I'm trying to look for this end table look, and I feel like it just doesn't work, and it really should have just stayed, because I'm now liking this look a lot better. But I'm pretty okay with what I stuck with in the end, which was just like a regular table. Um, and so I ended up finding some empty glasses to put on the table, struggling to put it on there because I had made the table smaller, but you can't make the cup smaller, so the cup kept floating, and I kept trying to mess with it, and I ended up having to go to the table. I should have just cut the end table at its regular height, and been okay with it, but it just didn't quite work out, which was fine. I think it's okay, but I mean, are you a Sims builder if you don't hate at least one part of your house, really, or one part of your build? Like if you're are you an artist if you really just don't hate your artwork every time you make it? Oh man. I was watching other people do these builds, and they manage to talk forever. But I think typically these builds are over by then. But unfortunately, this build took me so long because I'm not a very fast builder. You couldn't put me in a competition for anything because I would need all day to do something. That this build just wasn't fast by any means. So I'm like watching it and I'm like, what am I doing next? What did I do next? I think I was looking for a fireplace next. But this build took forever. I was like, no, I'll hammer it out in a few hours, or like, in like an hour or two. No, it took me 3 hours, and I managed to cut it down to like 45 minutes. Very sorry that this video is so long. But details and clutter take a lot of effort, like ridiculous amount of effort. And I tried to cut out as much as I could of me sitting there doing nothing. At one point I had to get up and make dinner during this video. And then I came back and I was like, all right, we're good. Let's keep going. Also, I'm trying to remember if it was The Sims 4. I thought it was The Sims 3 that used to have these pictures from like the vampires expansion that would change at night. And I believe it's Sims 3 because I don't think I found them in Sims 4. Because those would have been really interesting to have throughout the house, especially because this house in particular does have some very spooky paintings all around of people and things and just stuff going on. And it would have been really cool to have that kind of interactive detail. Oh, there's that voodoo doll. Thank God. We love the voodoo doll. And of course, because Phasmophobia, you always have to put a bone. As my friends like to call it, it's a boner. And you always have to put it in the bathroom because there's always a boner in the bathroom. YouTube's going to demonetize me for that one as if I make money. Screw you, YouTube. But it was kind of nice to the fish bones were kind of nice to add into the build. I didn't even realize you could have fish bones in the game. That was something I totally didn't know, but it was so nice, especially because Phasmophobia, finding the bone in a house is an objective. So it was nice to put that little Easter egg there for those that might play it and download it and be like, oh, look, there it is. Again, we have so much more clutter. There's just so much clutter in this house. It's all useless, all does nothing. At this point, I'm just like trying to find random stuff to put anywhere that looks even remotely close. There's a picture of like a landscape here that I'm trying to find something close to. It's like a mountain, and I'm like, yeah, that'll work there. And it works out fine, but it's a lot. I'm getting close to the point where I'm just like, oh my gosh, I'm so tired. I need to finish this. And so I'm just putting clutter everywhere. I don't care where it goes. I don't care what color it is anymore. I just need it there. I'm still looking at these pictures and wishing that there wasn't as much clutter. The developer wasn't so into detail, which is very good of him, but also, oh my goodness. There's clothing everywhere. There's papers. There's boxes. This is like a weird closet storage room that no one's cleaned for like 10 years. So it's gross and it's dusty. And those boxes with the bunny are where I hide from the ghosts nowadays when I play the game. So it's pretty kind of fun to see the little places that you find, especially as like it gets closer to being more accurate. Just the little places that like I recognize in the game. I took a picture, and when I finished this video, I took a picture of like the stairwell, which is a pretty I feel like, iconic spot for the house and posted it to Twitter of like, ooh, look what got done. Of course, this is being edited and rendered about 2 weeks after I did it, but whatever gets it done in the end, essentially. Um, yeah, from here it's a lot of the same things. It's a lot of clutter. It's a lot of putting stuff just randomly everywhere. There's not a whole ton to say about it, honestly. It's the same thing. It's a lot of clutter. This room was a little different in terms of the bed was probably one of the more detailed ones. It has like a very distinct pattern on the front of it. It's a blue pattern, and this one that I chose here was the closest I could find for it. This room also, compared to the rest of the house, has pink curtains. It has like a pink lace curtain over it, and it was not typical for the rest of the house, which I wasn't expecting when I looked back at the picture to make sure I had everything. Um, so that was kind of interesting to work on. This room also has a divider, which I think we put one more time upstairs, and an ottoman, which I don't actually usually put anywhere else. And this room's secondary rooms, so like the closet in the top right corner and the bathroom in the room below it, aren't like, I couldn't for the life of me remember. I think those are the two rooms I never went and took pictures of, so I had to go and find someone else's pictures online, but I could not for the life of me remember what those rooms looked like. Um, it was so, oh my gosh, excuse me. It was so tough when editing or like when making it that I kept coming up with ideas and then I kept deleting them and coming up with ideas and trying to figure out what in the world was in those rooms and what they looked like with the pictures that I had and with the pictures that worked. And it was tough. Again, thankfully, people online were a little more observant than I was in terms of getting these pictures. And thankfully, online, some of these people just turned the lights on and took pictures because I was not doing that. And I'm assuming they went solo, a thing I also will not be doing in Phasmophobia because that's terrifying to me. I do not want to hear all the noises of the house, and I do not want to hear the ghost trying to mess with me while I'm trying to get these pictures. I think I'm going to have to for the rest of them, though. And you can see me here going back and checking where in the world what these other rooms looked like. I had to fix the utility room. I had to fix the bathroom. I had to fix the closet. I tried putting clothes up because I thought that was going to help, and then I realized that clothes don't actually go in there. There weren't clothes hanging, which, would have been normal and standard for a closet, but nope, farmhouse has to do it differently. I tried guessing what the bathroom looked like instead of just going and checking, which I think wasted a lot of my time here. Because the bathroom doesn't look like that. That's what the bathroom looks like when I make a house from my pure creativity. And that's what it looks like standard because I'm lazy with bathrooms and I don't like making them look very different. But it is what it is. When I play my own games, I'm just such a lazy decorator. Is anyone else like that? Where you're like, for something fancy, you're like, oh, I'm going to do all this stuff and it's going to be great. And this time you're like, no, I don't want to do this right now. I just want to play this game. So it was a lot of that. My houses look like crap if I typically work on them, unless I spend hours upon hours upon hours working on these houses, but I get really lazy about it. Next is our second upstairs bedroom. Also another weird bedroom. This bed's like a cot more than a bed. It's got like a wire frame to it, which again, The Sims does not have. There is a cot, but it didn't look quite right compared to like the picture, and I thought like this was the best one. But it's got like this wire bed with just a mattress on it and like a chest at the bottom. And it was very strange. It's a strange little room, and it was another one I didn't remember very well because typically I don't spend a ton of time in it. And it's also connected to this storage room that's on the right here that we're going to go into at some point to fill with clutter and all that fun stuff. But it's got an ottoman, it's got a table, it's got lamps, lots of bookshelves, lots of stuff. Again, I forgot to place a door. Good job, me. Um, but I believe after that room, we're more or less done. I know I still have to go downstairs and like edit what that bathroom looks like because I don't have it right, and I'm gonna realize that in a few moments. But it's, I also realize like that chair is not quite right, and this is about the part where I had gone into other people's pictures and tried to figure out like where everything was, and realized that I kind of had it all wrong and that I needed to be fixing it because it just didn't look right, you know? It doesn't look quite right. And that's a big problem for me. I need it all to look perfect because I'm a bit of a perfectionist in The Sims. So yeah, I am thankful for The Sims 4 for the amount of detail we can have in a game and for how much we can do with the furniture. I complained a lot this video, but The Sims has really upped their game. Like, especially if you go to Sims 1 or Sims 2 even, there is just not as much you can put on. Clutter became, I know, a little more prevalent in Sims 3, but the games really have changed throughout time and really made this whole building process a lot easier. And a lot, you know, a lot more, you can do a lot more with it, which I think is great. And it's a really great game for kind of everybody. But that's the end of me sucking up to EA for a little bit so they don't ban me from Origin so I can keep playing The Sims, which is an addiction to me at this point. I mean, but who isn't? You play the game for 3 months solid and then you quit it for another 3 months and you go back and forth. I am hoping with the upcoming expansion, though, of Cottage Living that we get maybe a little bit more farming stuff, more farm tools, farming decorations. I know it's very exciting, honestly, to see like a little bit more focus on like cottage living and like living off the land and kind of things. I do hope that we get a little bit more of furniture for it as well to really set it. And I hope it's not all picturesque and perfect and not a little dirty with some, you know, with some grime on it. You know, we don't got to be afraid. We don't have to be afraid of the dirt. Yay. We don't have to be afraid of it. We can embrace it a little bit. Because, I mean, otherwise, when everything is so crystal clear and perfect, it doesn't look a little lived in. And I like my Sims houses to be lived in, whatever the word is. This room, though, really tested me and my clutter skills. I had to make a literal stack and pile of boxes here. I can't get the words out now. Basically a pile of boxes here to get it to look like a cluttered storage room. And I didn't even pay attention to really what was in the room. There's like, I looked around for like some key pieces, but otherwise it was boxes and bins all stacked up on each other. And there's this weird pillar that's in there, and there's like a mirror, and actually there isn't a mirror. It was, what was it? Oh, it was like a mattress, like a stand-up mattress along one of the walls, which again, Sims 4 doesn't have mattresses alone, so I just kind of didn't put anything there. But it also has this power setup here for like the power in the house. Occasionally in Phasmophobia, you have to go and put power to the house, and like the ghost will turn it off and turn it on, and it changes various behaviors on the ghost depending on which ghost it is, and it does a lot. So I basically had to make this weird power grid with all these weird panels here that don't look quite right, but it works well enough. It's just very funny to look at now, especially because there's just not a ton to it, and it all kind of doesn't look very put together, considering this panel is a big square and has like a bunch of boxes together. But, you know, we did our best. We did what we could with what we had, and it works out for the most part. And yeah, it works out for the most part, I think. I think it looks decent. It looks cluttered. It looks kind of ridiculous. Now I'm trying to work on like more or less the outside of the house, which there isn't much to it. I wanted to again fix these curtains because these curtains just looked bad. I managed to pull them a little further down. Again, I said this in the beginning. I hate these curtains in The Sims. I hate all the curtains in The Sims. They just don't cooperate with me. They're rude to me. They insult me every time I have to mess with them because they're like, wow, look at you. You're so silly for not knowing how to use these curtains. And the game just infuriates me about them. So if many of my houses, unless I put a lot of effort into them, will not have curtains because I hate dealing with curtains. As you can see, I did not manage to lower all of them because the curtains would just not cooperate with me. Here is me fixing the closet because the closet did not have the right amount of clutter. Again, this is where I realized that there were no hanging clothes in this closet. It's just boxes. Random boxes everywhere. Because apparently ghosts don't own clothes, they only own boxes. Outside was fairly simple in terms of design only because outside there's like a rundown truck, an RV. There's like a rundown RV actually, trees, a gravel walkway, and then technically like the truck that you show up in Phasmophobia. Because there is only like a rundown truck as an option, I ended up using like the Airbus shiny RV that you can have in the game as well. And that worked out. There is, I think, a little bit more I could have added to the outside of this house. Just like, I think there's a pumpkin patch in the back. That might be the other house. There's 2 farmhouses in Phasmophobia, so it might be the other house. I did not get very many pictures of outside. The only thing I kind of had to do it based off memory, which was that there's trees, there's some fencing, which I did forget to add in the end, and there's some bushes. My favorite bush to use is this stuff from Island Living. It's like Nanpuka or something, and it is the best random foliage that I've ever found. I changed the size of it, I changed where it goes, and it just looks like random bushes. And it's one of my favorite things to use for all my builds. If I'm trying to make like an next garden that's full of foliage that you can't go through, you're going to see that be used a lot. It is everywhere. Now I'm adding just like some a little more spooky touches. These aren't even like in the game, like spot cobwebs or stuff like that, but I wanted to add just a little bit more of an older feel. It hasn't been house hasn't been cleaned in a while. House is a mess. There's been a ghost running rampant throughout the whole place, and kind of just it looks like crap a little bit, which is okay. I didn't try and do a whole ton because the game again does not have this in their game right now, but I did just want to add some details to make it a little bit more decrepit of a house. Make it gross looking, make it old. Kind of all I wanted. Because try to get that feel again that is in that you get in the game when you're in this house. Because The Sims just makes everything look a little too clean, and I'm just not here for it. I want gross, I want cobwebs, I want scratches on the walls. I want some ghost encounters. Because these ghosts are gross. If you ever look up the ghosts from Phasmophobia, beware. They are gross and gory and eek. They give me nightmares. There's a child with literal, like, teeth for a face. It's terrifying. That thing also crawls. So, beware. But yeah, there's pretty much it. We gotta make sure we name a Grafton Farmhouse there. Gotta also make sure that we make it a haunted house. Me trying to look through the traits for haunted house, realizing it's actually a lot type. And then adding my things like cursed and creepy crawlies. And grody. Because it's gross. It's a gross house. I don't like it. Again, I wish I could have added a mirror with an axe through it. I looked through the pictures a little bit just to check. I like to do the look around of the whole house, like just check the pictures, see what it looks like. I realized the roof didn't look quite right, especially after checking online. The roof does not slant outwards, it slants up. It doesn't slant towards the front, it slants the other way to the front. So I did fix that. Me and my silly little description. So you can find this house on the gallery if you would like as well. It is under Miss Ari. I might have to double check that, honestly. I feel like that's what it's under, considering I believe I changed my origin name to that, but I could be entirely wrong. Again, I will make sure everything, all the details for it are in the description below the video as well. So if you'd like this house for yourself, feel free to go and check it out. Yeah, this is me fixing the roof and trying to add additional roofing to make it so it is all kind of one piece. Now I'm finally like, okay, this is good. This is great. I think it's wonderful because It took forever. So yes, it is on the gallery now for you to use. But thank you for watching. This is the end finally. Oh my goodness. If you bear with me through the whole time, thank you so much. Feel free to go check out my Twitch, which is below in the description as well. Feel free to subscribe. I'm trying to do more of these videos as well. Just to get some more content out there, get some more Sim stuff, because I do enjoy playing the game so much. I'm also an avid Final Fantasy 14 player, so I'm trying to do content of that as well. Everyone have a great night. Thank you for so much. Great night, great day, great afternoon, great morning, whatever it is for you. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you guys next time.